Hey everybody, welcome back to Omens, and happy 2022. Brand new year, brand new set of shenanigans. Honestly, I don't have very high hopes for 2022, but that's just my cynicism starting up. Maybe it'll be good. I'm hoping it'll be good. I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised, but I'm feeling that pessimism thing right now. But anyway, not important. By the way, AM pronouns. I forgot that part. Alright. And it's the first month of the year, first new episode of the year, and we're moving into the Four of Swords. Appropriate, honestly, for the way this past week has been. I need a little Four of Swords time. Alright. But anyway, I hope y'all have checked out my Facebook page. I'm doing some new stuff over there this year, so just started up some stuff. I'm a little behind on what I want to do, but it's picking up. I'm holding to what I want to do, all the different posts and stuff, just getting more content put on there type deal. Alright, and also I am going to be putting up a website, and I am going to be putting these episodes on my back catalog, and all my back catalog, and from here on out, I'm going to start turning these into podcasts. That way it's easier to just like listen to them occasionally, because YouTube, not always the greatest for that, unless you... especially not on your phone. It's like, oh god, that's so irritating. That's part of why I finally got YouTube Premium, because it's like I need to turn my phone off or go to other things besides YouTube, and this is a long-ass video. I got it. So I'm like, yeah, not everybody can pay for Premium, because that's $10 a month. It's a little bit. It's quite a bit for some of us. So I'm going to be trying to turn these into podcasts, which, given the fact that I'm planning to go through Anchor, means they'll probably come with ads, but what are you going to do? Alright, hopefully I can manage to keep them short and stuff. We'll see. I haven't even really looked at it yet, 100%. I've kind of pulled up the website and then been like, shoot, I need the app and I need to be on my computer for this, so I'm gonna put a hold on that, because it's like whole thing. So hopefully I get to it soon. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about for today. That's housekeeping, I guess. All right, today we are diving into the Four of Swords, the Lord of Rest from Strife, as the Golden Dawn called him. All right, so first and foremost, our swords. To kind of talk about this one, I'm going to go back through the previous cards and bring it up to speed type deal. So I've got my Supernatural Tarot deck for this one, and it's just 4 blades, 4 swords. It's called the Four of Blades. It's just the 4 swords. It's kind of like a pip card. We've got Ruby's knife, Cain's donkey jawbone, an angel sword, and I believe it's not an archangel sword. What is it? I'm pretty sure it's another type of angel sword, but it's a very like high level one, or it might be a sort of demon sword. I can't remember that one. All I know is it looks like an angel blade, but shorter and with no hilt. Or, well, yeah, no, one of those things that stops your hands. It doesn't have one of that, so slightly more dangerous. Oh, and it's twisted? No, that's just the light reflection. Alright, pretty simple card. It's just 4 swords all in a row, 4 daggers. Alright, so in the swords from previous cards up until now, and you'll notice we've done a bit of this before in my Tarot 101 videos, so basically we've had this gift of double-edged mental clarity given to us, and the Ace of Swords is when it's like, we're cutting through all the fog, here's some inspiration, some insight, some clarity, which can be both a good thing and a bad thing. And y'all know what I'm talking about when you suddenly have that aha moment and you're like, shit, that's how it should have been. Oh, that's how it should have been. ooh, or this is what I've been doing, but oh, that's what I've been doing. Ooh, you know that double-edged clarity, that like, oh, light bulb moment. This is either better than I thought it was, or worse than I thought it was, or both. So a double-edged sword. um, so we had that in the Ace of Swords, and then the Two of Swords. We had to sit with that. We had to sit with that clarity. We had to sit with our choices and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I guess this is just where I'm going. It's just going to have to be this way. So we had to sit with our choices in silence and internal contemplation. It's like it's that sort of stuff where it's like you can't really ask advice. I mean, you could, but you got to find the right people, and often those right people are the ones you're thinking about. So it's And then in the Three of Swords, we had to go through that choice. We had to break some hearts, mend some other ones, do something else, break our own hearts. It's like some of that grief, it's like, might have been a really good choice, but there's always a little bit of heartbreak when you have to basically make a choice and cut off something else. So now we've gone through that, and now we're in the Four of Swords, which, like I said, its title is the Lord of Rest from Strife. So that's the swords part of this. The air is, have my good tarot here, and we've got a feminine-looking person, just with peacock's feathers in her hair, holding one. She's just kind of sitting down on the clouds. She's got white wings. She's kind of covered in feathers. It's all kind of airy. It's like a light blue sky. It's all kind of monotone in that way, and she's just sitting there with her hands around, hugging her knees to her chest. She's just like, okay, everything's stopped right now. Like, nothing's moving. And that's kind of the feel of air that comes with this card, is like, it's just still air. It's not anticipatory. It's not like it's like waiting on something. It's not like that. It's not an anticipation. It's just, everything's stopped. It's just like, hold the fuck up. Hold the phone. Just wait. It's just, this air is just kind of a waiting air. There's no movement, no breeze. It's just like, it's still. It's like, okay, we've settled down. It's not the calm before a storm. It's more the calm after a storm. It's like the shit's just gone through. Now let's breathe. And type deal. So that's kind of the feeling of air I get with this card. That's that swords, air. Moving along onto the numerology. Start getting into the meat of this card. Alright. So we have my Tarot of the Old Path here, which is basically a pre-medieval, well, around 1400 style Europe style, 1400s Europe style card. So like, or maybe Renaissance. I'm not good with time periods. Somebody's gonna correct me at some point. So we've got, again, kind of a feminine person. She is standing in a dress, just dressed very plainly, honestly. It's just a simple yellow dress. There's some brocade and fabric. Now, granted, that might not be plain, especially given the time period. It's embroidery, it's ribbons. However, so it's like somebody who's in the more upper class, but somebody very simple and kind of kept, because she's got her hair covered. It's all up in a bun. So like maybe like a married woman, or a widowed, probably married, or a spinster, and basically a mature person. And she's just standing with her eyes closed, head slightly bowed. Her hands are kind of, I think if you brought your hands up into the prayer pose, or the prayer pose, and then you turned them palms outward, it's just kind of like that. It's a very gentle stop. It's like, hold on. Again, another stop. And even more enforced by this is the fact that she's actually standing in a courtyard surrounded by walls. And it's kind of like a, not quite to scale, because it's more like this courtyard is just kind of up to her knees, and it's all surrounding her on 5 different sides, and there are 4 swords by her. So it's like she's sitting in a, like, kind of just a place of protection. Like, just stop. You can't get through here. Just don't come near. She's got her walls up, is kind of the feeling of this card. She's just like, nobody gets close to my heart. And in fact, it's even more because the hands are like literally over her heart space. So it's like protecting her heart. Like, nobody can get close right now. There's no... She's tired and she's done and she just doesn't want anybody close. Alright, and so in the numerology, the number 4 represents containment and regularity, the kind of regularity you find in a square, which is the numerological representation, or the shape representation of the number 4, or vice versa. Number 4 is just a very practical and material number. It's located dead center of the physical plane, so it's like we're no longer entering into the physical with the 1. We've hit the point where we're like, okay, I'm in my body, I'm here, I'm grounded, I know what is what, I know the difference between me, my surroundings, and my senses. I understand separation between me and other things, so now I'm practical. I've grounded. I've figured the world out. It's like there's a clear line of distinction everywhere. We've hit our mature age where we're like everything's black and white. So, and then taking that further beyond just the life stages, then we start into the 4 is very. It has to do a lot with finances, like being a practical financial person. It's very technical. It wants to know the details, wants to put everything where it's supposed to go. It's very organized in that respect as well. It also has to do with gardening and the manual arts and building. And not even just physical building, but also metaphorical building. It's people that prefer concrete forms of thought rather than theoretical concepts. It's like, you know, those people that are always like, okay, just stop talking, quit, just tell it to me straight. That kind of a feeling with the number 4. It's like, just tell it to me straight. Don't give me metaphors and this is like this and it's sort of like this, but it could be this, but also this. It's like, don't tell me, just tell me what the fuck it is. Just set it down. And they often do this hand gesture where it's like, you bring the 2 hands up and they're just blades and they're just like down, just chopping. Like, just set it down straight. Just make it, it's kind of that like physically putting a 4 or a square in the world in front of you to just get things organized, practical, and square. Now, on the negative side of that is that people with a lot of 4 energy they tend to be a little bit more materialistic, or they can be like overly materialistic. They can be skeptical, like everything has to be questioned, and it's like, and skepticism's a good quality. Just not when it interferes with you actually like learning anything new. It's like when you're just like questioning everything with the refusal to actually learn anything. It's not skepticism anymore. It's just kind of being an asshole. They can be a little impatient. I mean, fair enough. When you get somebody that wanders off in all the flower language and they're like, just cut through the bush. Just quit talking flowers. Just tell me what this is. So they can be a little impatient. I mean, fair enough. Sometimes in that ways they can be a bit dogmatic about just getting things done. If you've got somebody who's like, say their birth number, the life path number is a 4, or they've got a lot of 4s in their birth chart, they're very do it, get it done and organized, and they can be a bit dogmatic about it. It's like, this is how we want to do it, and this is how we're going to do it. That's it. I've got a little 4 in my birth chart, actually, come to think of it, if you combine my day and month. Alright, so, yeah, that's the number 4. It's just very practical, and we can see a little bit in this card with she's just like, just stop. All this gray area looping around the bush, it's too much. I'm over and done with it. You can't keep leading. Given the fact she's protecting her heart, I'd almost say that this might be a little, you got to stop leading me around by my heart. I need to know one way or another. Period. End of discussion. She's got her swords up, like, no, we're cutting through this bullshit. If you want to get in here, you're going to have to slice up your bullshit. You're going to have to slice up your bullshit. So it's like you're not getting in here with the wandering language. So it's kind of like that. So that's what we got for the 4. Alright, now for the Celestial card. And again, we know with the astrology, Celestial is one take, which is more contemporary modern astrology take, and the traditional astrology I pull from Tarot and Astrology book, the book Tarot and Astrology, I forget the author, and it's emphasis more on the Golden Dawn traditional astrology. Alright, so in the Celestial deck, we've got our contemporary astrology, so let's show the card here. So we've got a fish, kind of in a curve, you know, that old medieval curve where the head is up and the tail's coming up, and there's just it looks like a little U. Looks like a U with one side longer than the other. And the fish is like, he's got water pouring into his mouth, and we'll get to that. That is actually important. So there's just a fish with water pouring into his mouth. It looks like he's got waves around him, because this deck likes their blue background and white smoky accents, I guess. Just white smoke kind of everywhere. So, and then the symbols on here are Aquarius and Uranus. Just looks a little funky because I'm used to the Uranus, the middle one, having a spike all the way through, and it doesn't always have that. Sometimes it's those 3 spikes, sometimes the one is just under the bar, sometimes it's through the bar. Yeah, threw me off for a sec. And then below it, of course, we've got 4 swords all facing down in a row, an even line. Alright, so in contemporary astrology, the 4 swords in the Celestial deck is associated with the 90 degrees, or a square aspect, which is the aspect where, whatever. Alright, so the square is one of the most challenging aspects in a chart, or in the world around us, because it's both challenging and energizing, because it's like, it's 2 things going head to head, but not quite head to head, because opposition things are both head to head, but they're also balancing each other in a weird way. It's like they figuring each other out and working. Square, that figuring out and everything working is not happening. They have hit a corner. Like, they're coming at each other from a corner. It's an aspect that is kind of a, what's her name? I forget her frickin' name, and I've got names that I know are not hers are running in my head. Alright, the lady who I like to listen to with Cosmic Owl, or the Cosmic Owl Astrology and the Complete Guide to Astrology, she describes the square as kind of being a knight or an exhale energy. It's kind of one of those, all the fights just like put out of you. The planets are in their greatest tension in a square aspect. They can't see eye to eye, but they're still affecting each other. They're just running into a corner of each other. It's like they're backed up and they're just like pushing against the other. It's like neither one of them can go anywhere, either which direction they're trying to go, because the other's in the way, but they're not actually like head on. So they can't see eye to eye, and they're still affecting each other. And it's a very disharmonious aspect, but if you can overcome it, if you can overcome the obstacles, it's one of the best aspects for growth, for overcoming challenging obstacles. And so basically, if you can overcome the obstacles, if you can bring the aspects into harmony, if you can get them to work together well, great aspect for growth. Alright, so associated with 90 degrees. And then the other in Celestial deck that is associated with it is associated with the first decan, or the first 10 degrees, 0 through 9, of Aquarius, which is the decan ruled by Uranus. And this is where things are going to get different. So Aquarius is a fixed sign. It's a day sign. It's an air sign. So it's a lot of energy, a lot of active, a lot of get in the middle of stuff and think. And it tends to be about both individuality and community altogether. And it is actually ruled by Uranus and traditionally by Saturn. So we've got a little bit of both. Its opposition is Leo. So Leo is a very self-absorbed type sign, whereas Aquarius is both in and out, community and self. It tends to be a bit more community focused. The metal of Aquarius is lead. The gemstones are obsidian and sapphire. It's associated with the calves, the ankles, and the nervous system. Aquarius tends to be very unpredictable, inventive, original, idealistic, driven. Their keyword is no, so very much just think those college kids you see that are out at every freaking protest, every freaking assembly. They're out doing all the clubs, that kind of deal. Those kind of people. It's like people that are just out and doing stuff, and they continue it from college onwards. And that's kind of what Aquarius is like. College is actually a good spot for a good life stage example for Aquarius. All right, Uranus is, again, about individuality and uniqueness, about unconventionality. It shatters boundaries because Uranus was up until Uranus was discovered, as far as we knew, Saturn was the edge. Saturn was the boundary. Saturn was the last planet in our solar system. So that was the boundary. That was the cup we were in. And then we discover Uranus, and all those boundaries just get broken open. It's like, nope, now there's more. And that's what Uranus came to be associated with breaking things open, of changing the status quo, of like, okay, that's great, but what if type deal. So it can be unpredictable and inventive. No, wait, that's the Aquarius. Wow. But it awakens the mind to new ideas. So it's 0 to 9 degrees of Aquarius. Like I said, the first decan is the Aquarius, decan of Aquarius, basically. So it's a double Aquarius ruled by Uranus. So altogether, that means it's those who are born, people who are born with their, well, this would technically be the sun in Aquarius, in the first decan of Aquarius. So people who have basically a double Aquarius and Uranus tend to be individualists and nonconformists. They're progressive-minded. They're socially conscious. They have very active minds. They're prone to anxiety and overthinking because that's a lot of frickin' air energy and constant do-do-do-do-do-do in their brains. So it's a bit of a very, very, very active. So that's kind of what the Four of Swords is associated with here. And then the constellation associated with it is, this is going to be fun because this constellation actually has two names. So the first one, the one they have on the card, is Pisces Australis, so the southern fish. The other name for it is Pisces Astranis, and actually Pisces is spelled differently. It's Piscis. And so Pisces Astranis, it still means the southern fish. It's just a different spelling. I'm not 100% sure why. So in the Babylonian era, this constellation was just known as the fish. In ancient Egypt, it was associated with a myth of Isis being rescued by a fish, and I couldn't find the actual myth. And I did some serious digging. I was like, which myth? And it's like there's two, sort of. We'll get to it. All right. So in Greek. In Greek, the constellation, the fish drinks the water poured from the constellation of Aquarius. So that's where this water being poured comes from. So it's basically Aquarius, the water bearer, is pouring the water, and which would create a giant deluge, except for the fact that the fish comes along and drinks it all to save the world from drowning, pretty much. It's the two fish of the Pisces constellation are actually said to be Pisces Australis' offspring. And in magic, fish are symbolic of the unconscious realm. They're concerned with wisdom and otherworldly knowledge, prophecy, and divination. And its meaning in the celestial deck is it's time to digest things. Basically, you've been given a bunch of knowledge, now it's time to just settle and digest. So, final bit, or not the final bit, wow. I'm in a hurry, apparently. All right, next bit is the astrology, the traditional astrology as opposed to contemporary. And we have my Hush Tarot here, which is a lady. There's a lot of ladies in this one. A lady lying down across one sword with three swords standing up behind her at equal intervals, the middle one higher than the other, which will be important here. So in traditional astrology, the Four of Swords is actually associated with the third decan of Libra. So degrees 20 to 29. And it's the decan ruled by Jupiter. So Libra is a day sign, a cardinal sign, and an air sign. It's ruled by Venus. Its opposition is Aries. Its metal is copper. Gemstones are peridot and topaz. It rules the kidneys, the skin, the lower back, and buttocks, and balance. And basically its meaning is balance. It's the middle ground, the harmony, the place of harmony, the diplomat, the mediator, the person that loves all things fair and peace-loving, which can come across as very indecisive and vacillating, and like they can't really commit to anything, because can come across as a bit passive-aggressive because they're just like they're trying to like look at everything. All right. So that's Libra. Jupiter is the first social planet. So basically, we've gone from the personal planets to the more expansive planets. I like to split the planets kind of up into three. So like Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus are all personal planets. They're all concerned with the self. Jupiter and Saturn are more social planets because they take longer. Like Jupiter's rotation is about 12 years and Saturn's is about 29. So they come and go around and around in each person's life multiple times, which is why I see them more as social planets. They're not really quite personal anymore because they're larger, expansive times, and they're concerned with how you interact with other people or how other people interact with you, but they're not quite the next ones, which Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which are known as generational planets because they're huge. You're never going to have a Pluto return in your lifetime. We're just now entering the USA's first Pluto return, 245 years after the place was founded. So, tells you a little something. So Jupiter is running away. First social planet is the ruler of Sagittarius and the traditional ruler of Pisces. It's kind of the guru or the teacher of the zodiac. It's named after the god of the sky. So therefore it's... I wrote this too small, I swear. It represents freedom, optimism, luck, generosity, expansion, breadth, truth. It's the sage, the prophet, the world traveler, and explorer. It's concerned with grandiosity, inflation, and bigger. Basically, Jupiter just makes things bigger, expands things, makes things fuller and more. It ups your odds for a lot of things, but it's like sometimes those upped odds and that expansion is not always a good thing. Alright, so then the third decan of Libra, 20 to 29 degrees, is ruled by Mercury, which is mind, communication, detail, technical ability, and learning. Mercury's ruler of Gemini and Virgo. It is... So this decan has to do with people who are born in there, like kind of with their sun in there. They tend to be charming people who can woo others with their words. They're also a bit more changeable and restless than the rest of Libra, which can upset the integral balance and harmony of Libra. So basically, this is Gemini needs to move and change, and Libra needs its harmony and its balance. So the fact that they get more restless than other Libras, and they tend to need to move, which means upsets their inner balance, which means they got to find a new equilibrium, and then that gets boring, and they need a new one. And by the way, if you hadn't noticed, this is actually my deacon. Yeah. All right, I feel this way too freaking well. So they tend to be very sociable people and need to converse with others regularly. Yeah. So in the Tarot and Astrology book, it describes the Four of Swords as This is there where there's been an intellectual focus. Somebody has been studying and analyzing. Then Jupiter comes in to give Libra a break from its usual worries and concerns. So it's a period of rest granted by the greater benefic, Jupiter, which slows Fortune's wheel during a time of anxiety and turmoil. So it's kind of a nice card here. So we've got. So, of course, the swords, because the swords tend to be associated with Libra in general, but especially here. So, we've got a little bit of a reminiscence of the Justice card here with the swords all in balance. And then this lady's resting across another one because it's like, oh, it's a break. Jupiter's coming and said, okay, you're really worried and whatever. Let's slow this down a little bit. Take a breather. Take a break. Just, chill a little bit. And she actually looks, her facial expression is really rather peaceful, almost happy. Which, well, maybe not quite happy, but it's at least peaceful, calmed down. It's not so strained. There's only a little bit of worry strains there. Alright, so the Kabbalah for this card, I have the Four of Swords from my Black Cat's Tarot, which is a black cat with a broken leg sitting on a bench looking very disgruntled and staring at its swords, which are all lying across the path from it, all wrapped up in rope. So it's like, gosh darn it. Can't even get over there. Can't play with my swords anymore because I've got a broken leg and I've got to walk around on crutches. And basically, it's almost like a forced rest in this case if we're going with the rest. So, the Kabbalah is associated with Chesed, the Sephirah Chesed, or mercy. Which is located on Olam Baraya, the world of creation, and on the pillar of mercy, the pillar of energy flow, the pillar that yields blessings and delight. Olam Baraya is the world of creation. It's associated with air and with the nights. It's where things come into, like, you're actually creating things. Chesed, or Gedula, sometimes, its name means loving kindness and mercy. It's associated with the sphere of Jupiter. And so again, we've got Jupiter, the expander, the greater benefic. It brings a state of grace. It brings flow of blessings and compassion and goodness without end. In the Tarot and the Tree of Life book, the Four of Swords is withdrawal from a busy headspace to a place of quiet and serenity. Fours tend to depict stability without dynamism and a little bit of lethargy. The card nicknames are the Yoga card. It's because in the traditional RWS, the pose is a dude lying on his back or a knight lying on its back with their hand over their hearts. It's known as the yoga pose because it's kind of reminiscent of the Asana or Savasana pose, which is the corpse pose, which is where you just lie flat on your back and just feel your body. It's an awesome pose. Recommend it for everybody. Anybody who can lie on their back can do at least one yoga pose. And that's what you tell people if they're like, why are you just lying there? You're like, I'm doing yoga. And they're like, what? And you're like, this is a pose. It's a Savasana. It's a corpse pose. It's a real thing. Look it up. So, you can tell them you're doing yoga. Now, granted, it really only works if you're actually lying on the floor and not on a bed, but, it's schematics. Savasana. So, the swords are often pointing to the third eye, the heart or throat, and the solar plexus chakras. And the fourth sword aligns with the spine, which is the central focus of Hatha Yoga, which I did not look up which tradition of yoga that is. Oops. I think it's pretty much the one that really focuses on... no, because that's Asana Yoga. Asana is the one that focuses on the different poses. I forget which Hatha is. The swords are related to concepts and ideas, so a still body with a mind in a meditative... in meditation, which is the Jewish tradition of meditation, in which you work with God on whatever comes up. The Buddhist tradition, or it could be the Buddhist tradition, which is to still your mind and sense nothing to the best of your ability, or the Jungian active imagination practice, but it's basically, in general, it's the time to go inwards and heal from the Three of Swords. It's basically, when it comes up, it's like it's a busy mind day. So we've got, like, this black cat is grumpy here. It's like forced rest, forced to go inwards and think and stuff, because she can't actually get up and do anything. She's stuck just sitting on a bench with her leg broken. And she can't do all the active stuff she wants to do. She's now forced to listen to her mind. So that's the Kabbalah, and to continue that theme, we have the Kabbalistic angel, which is Hael, the god of Trinity. It's a very pretty one. We've got a very glorious looking angel, like full robes and whatnot, reclining on a stone statue. Full wings, robes, crown. No, wait, that's her hair. Either way. Alright, so kind of a repose, and she's reposing against a lion. So, Hahel is known as the god of the Trinity. So Ha'el is a virtue, which is the 5th out of 9 ranks. They are responsible for making miracles happen on earth. Their psalm is 122. And they protect against the impious and those who would slander and govern Christianity. And Ha'el also governs Christianity. They're the guardian angel for those born from October 14th to 18th. I decided to throw that in there because I went looking up some other stuff on them. Those born under Ha'el will be distinguished by their greatness of soul and energy. They'll be devoted to their spiritual mission, which is funny because this is a very, like, relaxed-looking angel. Soul guardian for those born 1:20 to 1:40 p.m. The moral guardian for those born February 11th, April 29th, July 10th, September 20th, December 1st, and physical guardian for those born October 6th to 10th. Alright, next up is the being for the Four of Swords, which is a vampire. A very Dracula-looking vampire here in the Fantasy World Tarot. He's standing in a coffin with his cape and his waistcoat and tuxedo. There are bats flying around, and there's a lady flung across another coffin in front of him. She's got 2 bite marks on her neck. She's in a sleeveless blue dress. It's like she is like wearing almost nothing compared to him. Alright, and it's in a dungeon. It's very Dracula-esque. So the vampire. The vampire is a creature from folklore that subsists by feeding on the vital essence of the living, which could be blood, could be energy, could be the soul, could be a few other things. The word vampire first appeared in newspapers in 1732 about a vampire epidemics in Eastern Europe. It's derived possibly via the French vampire, which this is spelled V-A-M-P-Y-R-E. From German vampire, derived from Serbian vampir, paralleled by virtually all Slavic languages. The exact etymology is unclear. The less widespread theory is that the Slavic languages borrowed the word, from a Turkish term for witch, which is uperetsa, which is in Czech an archaic verb. Uperet means to thrust violently, and as an etymological background and thus translated... Okay, so sorry. Czech linguist Václav Maček proposes Slavic word vyrepsa, stick to or thrust to, as a hypothetical anagram for uperetsa, because in Czech the archaic verb uperet means to thrust violently. As an etymological background, and thus translate uper as someone who thrusts or bites. So we don't really quite 100% know where the word comes from specifically, but it comes from around the Slavic area, as far as we can tell. Alright, so pretty much every culture of humanity has had some version of a vampire for forever. It's just originally they were called demons. They were a type of demon, and then they slowly became their own thing. The Mesopotamians, Hebrews, ancient Greeks, Manipuri, and Romans had tales of demons and spirits considered precursors to the modern vampires. However, for the folklore for today's modern vampire comes exclusively from early 18th century Southeast Europe. In most cases, vampires are revenants of evil beings. Basically, they're revived evil beings, suicide victims, witches, or created by a corpse-possessing malevolent spirit or by being bitten by another vampire. Their appearance is often kind of bloated and ruddy, purplish or dark in color, especially in original. So basically, they're bloated because they're usually and purplish from blood they've just eaten. Their blood is often seeping through the mouth from their mouth and nose. Especially if they were found like in a coffin, if somebody suspected like somebody was a vampire and somebody who'd passed was a vampire and they dig them up and there's fresh blood. It's like they're a vampire. We must do something. There's some really good podcasts about vampires, I gotta say. Left eye was often open. And if they were wrapped in their appearance when they were out and walking was bloated, blood seeping, left eye open, wrapped in their burial shroud. Teeth, hair, and nails had grown somewhat. That was kind of again, when you die, the skin shrinks, so it looks like the hair, teeth, and nail grows, but they don't. It's just the skin shrinking. Mostly undead, but there were some living vampires. The causes were said to be either in Slavic and Chinese. That's funny. Any corpse that was jumped over by an animal, particularly a cat or a dog. So basically, if you had died, and if your great aunt had died, it's like you had to make sure that there were no animals anywhere near her corpse for a while, because if an animal decided to jump over her corpse, well, she was going to be a vampire, and then you'd have to do something about that. Any body with a wound untreated by boiling water. Oof. And in Russia, witches or people who rebelled against the Russian Orthodox Church were obviously vampires. Methods to prevent vampires were to bury a corpse face down with their earthly goods or severing screenshots. I would do this myself. So you could bury a corpse upside down, placing earthly objects such as scythes or sickles near the grave to satisfy any demons entering the body, or to appease the dead so that it would not wish to arise from its coffin. Severing tendons at the knees, or placing poppy seeds, millet, or sand at the ground of the gravesite of presumed vampires, because this was intended to keep them, because they'd be like, oh my god, there's sand here, I must count every single one. And then it's like, oh shit, it's sunrise, I need to jump back in the grave or die. Which is a lot of things with most vampires. Alright, I think that's... there is some interesting podcasts on vampires. There's been some really good, research done into them. I highly recommend either The Poisoner's Cabinet or Lore, and their episodes about the very first vampire that we know from here at here in America. Let me see if I can maybe find it. Okay, so apparently The Poisoner's Cabinet, it was probably actually a Patreon episode. However, Lore, I believe episode 1, They Made a Tonic, is when they talk about the lore of vampires, which is really good and really fascinating. So it's something to look into. Alright, but I'll leave it there at that, because things ain't going so well. Alright, and then the final bit of this, I have a new tarot deck. It is the Disney Villains Tarot, and the Four of Swords, we have Scar. Granted, only part of his face. scar up close, and then there's 4 swords just right there. So the traditional meanings of the 4 swords, upright, of course, as we've kind of gotten, it's a lot of rest. It's like, hey, take a break, just calm down, sleep it off type deal. It's like you're just running yourself around in circles. All right, so upright, not sure where to go or what to do, so take time off to rest and gather your thoughts. Inverted, there's a couple of different possibilities. You're either overworked, scattered, and not listening to your body's exhaustion, so it's like, just stop, fucking take a break. Or you've ground to a halt and just can't move. You're just like, what's next? What are we doing? I don't know. Alright, so that is the 4 of Swords, the Lord of Rest from Strife. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'd say it wasn't the worst episode I've done, so, we'll see. Alright, so you can find me on Facebook at OwlFoxOmens. Like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube, and hopefully, if you've got to email me, I've got a new email address, OwlFoxOmens@gmail.com. And hopefully I will have a website and podcast up here soon. We'll see. Hopefully that's coming up. It might not be announced here first because, as y'all know, I tend to do all my recordings for the month ahead of time. So, yeah. We'll see, though. Maybe I'll start putting news out. Hopefully I'll get a new introductory episode going here soon. Alright, well, that is it for me for this week. I hope y'all have a good rest of your whatever, and we'll see you next week when we talk about Mars. Alright, bye.